On recording yet? No, it is. Good evening. I'd like to open the meeting of the Tumwater Historic Preservation Commission for March 12th, 2026. And I need to do the roll call and I'll read off the names as they are in the opening page. My name is Dave Shipley, Chair. I think I'm here. Alex Rossiter. Here. Dave McAndry. Present. Marnie Slakey.
Here.
Don Trosper.
Also here.
Rob Paler is not here. So thank you for all coming. We need to have approval of the minutes.
I so move.
I second.
Been moved and seconded for the Historic Preservation Commission meeting of January 15th, 2026. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Any public comment?
Yes. Oh,
We have nobody for a public comment?
no, I have a public.
Oh, you have a public comment. Okay.
Because we can't add it to the agenda. So I was happy to be a part of a team of people that met at the Historic Highways Department building over on Capitol Boulevard 2 weeks ago. Kelly was there, Chuck was there, Dan was there from the Nino Stone Farmers. Mr. Brown from DOT, and the police, which show that the place is well guarded. So, we reviewed the prospects of the possibility of excising the frieze from the front of the most historic building, which the stone carver thought, what would be possible to cut out. There's two things I want to say about that. I'm concerned, since we know independently that a demolition permit has been submitted. And we know that the legislative session's about concluded, so whatever resources DOT is going to have, they have. We also know that whatever resources DOT has for the mitigation and cleanup and demolition of that site is not going to be sufficient to do the whole job. Probably a 10, 12, $15 million project. They might only have a fifth to a third of that. And so we hear a lot from the DOT representative about whether it might be money for this, there might not be money for that. There's not going to be money for a lot of things associated with that property. We're on the record as wanting constructive engagement with DOT for the preservation of that frieze. Mitigation of historic aspects is their responsibility by law. That building is eligible for because of its association with a well-recognized architect, and I would add, and it's that the DOT is not particularly conscious of this because of significant New Deal history association. My concern is that since the demolition permit is in the middle, that I would not want the clock to run out for our ability to comment and perhaps even oversee some aspect of that. And at a future meeting, I hope a timely one in April before the demolition permit kicks in May or sometime this summer, I'll have a chance to offer a budget motion to supplement DOT funding out of the commission's biennial authorization for purposes of historic mitigation regarding the preservation of the trees. Thank you.
Very good. Any comments? Okay.
I would just say as we move forward, you have your biennial budget, which is $20,000. You've spent maybe $1,000 on various presentations and help that we've gotten.
Okay.
So there's a fair amount that might go towards that.
Okay, so next meeting is on the 16th of April, so hopefully we'll have a report from Dave. Okay. Dave, you okay with April 16th?
Yes, I could do that meeting.
If you're in Mexico, you have to come back.
No, I wouldn't miss that.
Okay.
I would even avoid going to a game in Corvallis.
Whoa.
Yeah, you appreciate the significance.
Okay, we are to the heart of the meeting, and that's the Davis Meeker Gary Oak tree work plan approval requested. So who goes first?
Good evening.
Good.
Good evening. Let me get my presentation, the team's presentation up here on the screen. All set up. Can you see that already, Commissioner? Wonderful. So my name is Kelly Adams. I'm your Assistant City Administrator, and I serve on a team of folks. We call ourselves the Davis Meeker Gary Oak Tree Preservation Team. And with me today, I'll let Alyssa and Brian, I invite you to introduce yourselves.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alyssa Joneswood. I am the Sustainability Manager for the City of Tumwater and also the Tree Board Staff Liaison.
You'll have to forgive me, I lost my voice a little bit. My name is Brian Coughlin. I'm the urban forester in this sustainability department.
You didn't cheer for Oregon at the Oregon State football game, did you?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
It was cheering for Team USA in the baseball.
Oh,
Yes, it was the World Baseball Classic.
a big Oregon State fan, that's why I did.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so my perspective, I want to make sure that I call out my bias first, which is I began with the city last February. I've been here for exactly 1 year. So all of my perspective and all of our work on the tree has happened in the last year. I will not assume to tell you the history of the tree or the history of the public debate about the tree. And so just a few facts for anyone who watches this from the public. The Davis Meeker Gary Oak Tree is located near 7525 Old Highway 99. This is very well known to you. It lives in the right-of-way, a city right-of-way. Some folks would call this a city tree. We like to consider it living in the city right-of-way. The name honors John Davis and Ezra Meeker. It's approximately 400 years old. It has been on the Tumwater Register of Historic Places since 1995. I very much enjoyed reading your minutes from 1995. And it's been used as a navigational marker for generations by tribes and settlers to the region. This tree, this is my kindergarten map attempt. So this tree is adjacent to the Olympia Regional Airport off of Old Highway 99. This picture, we have a mapping program at the city called NearMap. And so we can look at things from an angle overhead. And this, I really love this photo because it shows you those two co-dominant branches and the amazing canopy that it offers that area. And so the timeline, and this timeline describes what we as a team, the documents and the events that we're working with. So as we understand it, in May 2023, there was a branch failure event that triggered an assessment, an initial assessment. And in October of 23, that risk assessment was completed by Kevin Farland of Sound Urban Forestry. There was an advanced tree risk assessment by Todd Prager and Associates. And after presenting that advanced tree risk assessment, the city changed direction on how the tree was considered. And so to support that and document that change, council approved resolution R 2025-009, which I'll talk about in just a second. From that advanced tree risk assessment, the city asked Todd Prager to create a treatment plan based on option B, which was the most favorable option from the perspective of city council, city staff, and folks who read the plan. In December, we were able to receive a Department of Archaeological and Historical Preservation permit amendment that would allow us to do the first year of maintenance on the tree. And then in January, we came to you to let you know that we were coming to you to talk about this because we're wonderful bureaucrats and we want you to know that what we're going to talk about. So when we talk about that resolution, there were three main sections outlining what the resolution supported. And so the first section outlined that council was allocating funding of $55,000. We know at this point, and we're having discussions within the city to go back to council because there will be more funding needed. This might not even cover the first year of work. So we're working diligently to get a better cost estimate to go back to city council. And here it also mentions that it is the discretion of the mayor to reduce public safety risks and retain the Davis Meeker Gary Oak tree in a safe condition. The second action that the resolution covered was to say that the mayor is authorized to take any and all actions necessary and proper to carry out measures including mitigation and maintenance activities to retain the tree in a safe condition within the established budget. And so that also outlines that we are permitted to go and retrieve the necessary permits and approvals, soliciting and hiring contractors. So the city just issued an RFP. Alyssa, do you want to speak about where that RFP is right now?
Sure. We issued a RFQ, a request for quote, because the spec was very well defined by Todd Prager and Associates, and we wanted to follow that to the letter. We received one response, and technically the deadline for me to notify the contractor chosen is the end of the day today. So your decision has timeliness.
And there is also room for you to not make a decision this evening if it doesn't feel appropriate to you. So we don't mean to put any undue pressure on this. And the third action is that the mayor needs to bring back a budget amendment, which is what we were just speaking on, and to provide additional recommendations for long-term funding, mitigation, and maintenance. And so I'm going to go to the next slide. So I want to talk about our goals as a team. We have 2 goals, and these goals are not mutually exclusive. They're taken as a pair. So we don't do one without the other. So we are tasked with mitigating safety risks and retaining the oak tree. And as a team, we feel that these 2 things can be done together. What's in the best interest of the health of the tree is also in the best interest of public safety. And so talking a little bit about the work plan was listed as option B in the original advanced assessment. And so this talks about retaining the tree, not cutting the tree down, doing very light reduction pruning. We are not talking about topping the tree or doing heavy pruning because that is how the tree feeds itself. So we don't want to take a leaf off of this tree without careful consideration. Potential installation of a supplemental support system. This is generally known as cabling. This will only be considered if it's absolutely necessary. And so we'll talk about that in just a second. Root zone management and ongoing monitoring. A very heavy part of this work plan is having our urban forester, Brian, and also Todd Prager and Associates coming down and watching every phase of anything that's going on with our maintenance. And so this is split up into a 3-year phased approach that's very conservative and very slow. And so year 1, we have acquired the permit amendment that gives us a year. We're going to do root zone management. That is going to, actually, I am going to tag over to Brian. If you can manage a sentence or 2 without your voice.
Oh, it's fine. So root zone management, really, the more care we give to the roots, the more healthy response we'll see in the shoots, right? That's the age-old saying. So by going and doing some slight grading, because we have that unfortunate lip on site, and doing what they call vertical mulching, we're gonna be adding lots of nutrients to the soil to help the roots be able to translocate minerals and materials up throughout the tree that hopefully will spurt new growth, and followed by the next following year will kind of set us up for success for pruning. So we can stimulate new growth, get a healthier root system. The site is unfortunately, it's right next to the road. It's a lot of runoff. Doesn't have a whole lot of nutrients. We need to kind of help the roots out.
Is that where you come in with holes?
Yep.
We're gonna be talking about.
Yeah, air stage, just to punch holes in the ground very carefully, using just air, and then filling those with biochar and other soil amendments to kind of slowly just add the nutrients to the soil. So we're not shocking the tree or anything. There's a lot of studies out there talking about how healthy and good this is, especially for older trees that need a little more nutrient boost, but you want to kind of get a slow release and help really support the root system.
And then that mulch.
And then we'll check them out afterwards, yes, all the time.
Can you talk about why this is all we're doing in year 1?
Exactly, yeah, just to emphasize, it really sets us up for success in pruning. Hopefully we'll get a lot of new growth in the tree, a lot of good response. And trees are not in a rush. We don't need to do all the stuff to the tree at once. We've poked and prodded and done quite a bit to the tree over the last few years. So just taking our time and doing a phased approach. And the most important thing you can do to a tree is root care. So we really want to make sure we're doing everything we can to add more nutrients to the soil. We had soil tested. It's not horribly compacted, but there's some compaction. It's deficient in some macro and micronutrients. So we're just going to be really sustaining and supporting the tree for future growth.
And I assume the fertilization or whatever you want to call it should be done in the spring here
Relatively
or later.
no, the plan, which is right here, calls for it to be done, I believe, before the end of May. So,
But I thought,
yeah.
okay.
And continuing on, we say year 2 or 3 because a lot of this work is contingent upon the pruning treatment and assessment. So when they do that light pruning, they're also going to assess from higher up how the tree is doing with the vertical mulching that was done in year 1. And so there is a healthy dose of skepticism and waiting on a supplemental support system. We're not quite convinced that a cabling system is necessary or helpful. And if you review a lot of meeting minutes from council from the initial assessment, even before Todd Prager was involved, cabling was a very dubious option. It can actually do more harm to a tree than actually helping the tree. And given that there's only 2 codominant limbs, if one limb is cabled to the other and might not be helping too much. And so there's also a proposal for fencing that is acceptable by DAHP. What do we call that type of fencing?
Split cedar rail, we're not punching holes in the ground or anything like that. We're just stacking railings, kind of interlocking them, just to help keep the public out a little bit or add some aesthetic and help protect the area.
Kind of thing Abe Lincoln would have done.
Yeah, thumbs up with that. Yeah, and I remember correctly, zigzag.
Yes.
Yep, zigzag.
Castellate.
And then we want to add native plantings. And then again, also monitoring throughout all phases of work and also visiting the tree on a regular basis just to see how the site is faring.
What would be the cost for, is that included in your estimate as far as observation later on periodically? Because by the arborist.
So that is part of what we're assessing now.
We do have Brian, who is a full-time arborist, who, once this initial work is done, and he already has been monitoring the tree on a regular basis. The wind blows real hard, he goes and checks on that tree and many others. There's an ice storm coming, checks that tree and many others.
That's what I assume.
Yep.
Okay.
And it may be that we pursue a fundraising option or a fundraising campaign of the city because so many folks care about the tree and we're actively looking for historic tree grants and other sources of funding. And so our recommendation right now is for the Historical Commission to approve the work plan as it's written by Todd Prager and Associates. And we're happy to take questions.
David.
I've got a lot of them. Well, they're more comments than questions. So, and I think the technical ones might be best to trust to Alyssa and Brian. So I noted very early on that the Oregon white oak as a species has been expanding its range from central and northern Oregon. How long has that been going on and how far does that expansion endure at this point?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a great question. I do know that the Oregon white oak is the only protected tree we have in the state. That is the only tree is deemed a critical habitat, fish and wildlife. They deemed it necessary to sustain a lot of native species that we have. So Western Washington has a lot of oaks. You drive up and down I-5, you stop outside the major metropolitan areas. You're gonna find an Oregon white oak.
So they're moving north as a function of the end of the Little Ice Age. Then, probably.
I don't know if I can answer that specifically.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the paleobotany of it, but I know that it has been a native tree here for some very long time. Yes.
I noted with pleasure that Oregon State University was But I also
Really
noted,
noted, you're gonna set off some fireworks.
I also noticed, and then I put an exclamation point next to this one, as you can attest on,
Yeah.
that the failure point from the celebrated or infamous May 2023 event was the result of an old pruning wound.
We're in the process of having well-established pruning standards here at the city, which have differed between the different departments, and now with the added capacity of an urban forester, the ability to have more training and specifications that are shared by all departments that touch trees, of which there are many, both theoretically and physically.
So the irony of that, just to make the point explicit, is that attempts to
Yeah.
protect public safety actually had the counterintuitive effect of actually increasing risk.
You noticed the same thing.
Thank you.
Agree.
And page 16 of 113, we used to quote it, historic pruning injuries contributing to a reduction in the strength of the trees.
And it never improves. That's what bothers me most, is a nice round tree and people come and lower every branch to go like this and just. Yeah. Gear it off.
That tree's very healthy, you know, seeing the mapping, the interior and everything, it's gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
So,
And that was, this is such a thorough study. I mean,
Yeah.
I treasure thoroughness of research, and this is just incredible. And the evidence we're presented with as the city council and former mayor at that time were presented at the time, 23, 24. The tree was healthy. Something happened. It was an unfortunate limb loss, but self-induced perhaps.
Yes.
I'm just going to flip through quickly. I didn't call out notes on a single sheet of paper. Ask meetings with commissions and
That's pruning though, the historic one. Would that have much to do with the interior wood being decayed?
no,
I assume it wouldn't, but I'm just asking.
no, the tree is showing remarkable signs of compartmentalization. So the tree is healing itself very nicely. And I was looking for it off the top of my head, just to throw this out there to provide clarity, because this is something that not many people are paying much attention to. I believe the tree was given a safety factor of 6.27. That means that tree has enough healthy wood to sustain 627% of itself. So, that's, the tree's doing just fine.
the last of the next ice age.
It's gonna be a while.
And the tomography, last time I saw something like this, I was in the emergency room.
Hey, that's mine.
I wasn't trying to get at the layman's term, like a ultrasound surgery.
Yeah, it's a CT, there's only the one reading with decay, which is the reading number one.
I had a 94-year-old. Made of you, you're the blue part.
Yeah, safety, I'm speaking about, safety factor 6.27, so a safety factor for a tree you want to maintain must have at least a 1.5. This tree is an exceptional tree, like it's just fine.
The other thing I found interesting was the term 80%. Could you explain that again? You recall what I'm talking about, 80% of the wood was solid on the outside or something to that effect. I forget where it was.
That first.
Yeah, I believe it's the first reading, there was some decay in there, but you're gonna have to forgive me, I wasn't quite prepared to go over all the different scans and everything, so if I remember correctly, the first scan showed that there was indications of decay 80%. But of that 8%, it still holds massive structural value to the tree.
Yes.
So there's nothing of real concern.
That,
Again, going back, that tree can hold 627% of itself, even with that decay at the base.
I was impressed with that. So much decay, yet the tree is very strong.
A lot of people think decay is bad thing in trees, and that's not necessarily the case, especially for oak trees. And so, back to the grading and everything, we unfortunately buried the root collar of that tree. That's why we had that lip there, and we want to grade it out to sustain and get the tree back to growing the way it's supposed to. Very little cover tree, root cultivable sense in place. So they left it exposed and we want to just make it look better and kind of, slowly grade it out.
And Ron also created the cavity for the kestrels, which I noted the study was decades old.
That's what love it. There's a cascade tree growing out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, the campground next to me, the kids went out and got twigs. And can you guess what kind did they use for their hot dogs?
I'm sorry for your restroom.
Yes. Ask her.
Hot
Yeah.
diarrhea for anyone
Yes,
who
but they're the
wants it.
greatest twigs you've ever seen in your life.
Always very careful when I look for my store statement.
So it looks like my only remaining question is going to be curiosity about the jurisdictional nexus that we're operating in. I was talking to the city administrator today and I told him, I don't ever remember being associated with a body that was working under some form of court direction. Can you elaborate on just what that is, and also regulatory direction from the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation?
Sure, I'm going to be cautious because there's an active litigation, and so I don't feel qualified to speak about the active litigation. I can tell you that the direction, we're trying as best we can to follow the municipal code as far as getting a certificate of appropriateness from the Historical Commission because it is on your register. And that's kind of put us in a little bit of a tricky place.
Okay,
I want to try to get to another way to help answer your question.
so there's continuing litigation over,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And there's probably, I understand the point you're making about not wanting to talk about ongoing litigation. So,
I'm a terrible attorney, so.
and then, yeah, why just the 1 year?
I think they're being cautious. And do you want to speak to that, Alyssa? You might have some more
They were
experience.
provided 1 year. We asked for the entire work plan. They provided 1 year and we can do amendments for each following year. And should we need to do any emergency work on the tree, that would also require an amendment.
Then lastly, I think you've already answered this, but let me ask it explicitly. Why the Historic Preservation Committee as the board and commission of relevance rather than the city's tree board?
It's not in the code. This is actually very,
Whereas we are.
yes, and it's on your historic register.
Okay, so that provides the connection.
And so, and just as some general context, some of the other work that I'm doing is advisory boards and commissions improvements and you'll probably be, not so much for historical commission because your code is pretty aligned to what you do. And there's RCWs involved in that. There's state requirements. But for some of our other boards, such as the tree board, we need to desperately update the municipal code and to work with them to discover what would you like to do. We have an urban forester on staff now. This is no longer a contract position. So how can we get the tree board more involved in work that they would like to do?
If I may elaborate on that a bit more. The tree, the Davis Meeker Gary oak tree is both a historic tree and a heritage tree. The process in our code for a historic tree involves you all as a board. The process for delisting or doing any sort of work with a heritage tree is administrative. The tree board doesn't have a role besides recommending new heritage trees to city council, which they then affirm or not, depending on their decision.
Can you speak about the last tree board meeting and the update that you provided them about this meeting?
Yes, I did, as soon as I learned that this meeting was scheduled, and that we would be discussing the Davis Meeker Dairy Oak, I extended an invitation to the tree board. The gentleman who came last time was unable to make this past Monday's tree board meeting and also this meeting. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have been there, but the tree board was invited. They were, it was clear to them that it was made clear to them that it wasn't a joint meeting because you are the ones who have the role and authority to make this decision, but that they would be welcomed into the conversation. I'm not sure if any of them are maybe virtually online as participants or not. I know Looks like maybe not.
Just
Okay.
us.
They were invited, a warm welcome, but I think they know that you are all are the ones with the authority and for this particular.
And I'd be notified to be at their next meeting, because I was assigned last meeting to be on our representative to the tree board, and I didn't get any notification, or
That might have been an oversight on my part, and I apologize.
I just had to go out on a limb there.
Thank you. Cross for everyone.
We'll send.
Marty?
his info.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question. I wasn't sure from reading the materials, but the treatment plan recommends selective pruning or reduction pruning in the second year. I just want to make sure I understand who will be responsible for actually doing that. Will it be a selected arborist or Prager? I wasn't sure. Or has it?
It'll be a selected oh, I'm sorry. It'll be selected arborist, and we'll be supervising and monitoring and mapping out the tree and going over in great detail. And we're gonna be taking very little off the tree, 10% at most of the canopy. When you reduce 15% of the tip of a limb, you're mitigating 50% of that limb's weight at the union. So we're just gonna be reducing a little bit over the road, maybe a couple other like dead limbs or anything like that in there. Not a whole lot, because we don't want to take away that tree's ability to photosynthesize. So we're going to be going out and selecting an arborist and working very closely with them.
And that will be an oversight role for Prager and Associates?
Both
Or
Todd
the
Prager and
city.
Associates and our city urban forester will
Oh.
be providing oversight.
All right, thank you.
I was under the impression from reading the study, I noticed the canopy reduction, of course, but I got the impression based upon what I'll call weight volume, I know I'm mixing metaphors here. The greater portion of it, to me as a layman, seemed to come from what we constituted by snags, dead limbs. Those are all gonna come out too.
In dead limbs, yeah. That's not gonna hurt the tree, but any live limbs will take very, very little.
We did have a member of Todd Prager's team come out and tour the site with us as she did soil sampling to make sure that we understood. It was very critical to us that in the actual work plan and the treatment plan, that we understood every decision point, every branch, as you would say, Commissioner Trust. Every branch, sorry.
You're getting right to the root of the issue there.
We're getting to the roots of the issue.
You're not.
You want to say that louder to make it not sure it's on that?
You're not barking at the wrong tree anyway.
So that for something like cabling that was controversial, for example, that we know exactly when would you make that decision and how would you make that decision and who makes that decision.
I would say when I read this, it was like overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I will say by
Then what's
the time I got done, I was really impressed with the thoroughness, and David alluded to it as well. It was tremendously impressive on this is what we did, and this is what we did, and this is why we did it. And for a layman like me, who never knew anything about pruning except it's 5 leaves on a rose bush, you know what I'm talking about. You go down to one with the 5 leaves on it. I found it very educational and very illuminating. But it took me a while to read it.
And that's why we want, and it's in their scope of work, we need Todd Prager's team, someone from Todd Prager's team to be with us through these 3 years so that we are carrying along that integrity throughout the process.
David?
Anything in the packet, either legally privileged or commercially proprietary, that would prevent us from sharing it with.
This is all on our website.
Okay. Can you go back to the motion, because I'd like to make it.
Go for it.
I recommend we approve the Davis Meeker Oak Treatment Plan as authored by Todd Prager and Associates.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Meeker treatment plans authored by Todd Prager and Associates. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I might have one thing is more of an apology, because I found out from my 94-year-old mom that my grandpa, Bill Trosper, which he was passed a long time ago. He was a high climber back in the Mud Bay Logging Company days. He do spar trees and had the spurs and all that. And one time, and I don't know what the date was, but he might have been the one that caused that scar from that. Because he went up that tree and cut a few limbs off, and he just.
We'll have to make a motion to change the name Trosper Road to something else.
But I have a name for his dad.
Anyway, we have a motion on the table. And any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
I,
Opposed? Okay, it carries. We're looking forward to a revitalized tree that will be here for another 400 years.
And I hope you don't mind if we come back
Oh,
as we work on the
absolutely.
tree and share photos and maybe invite you to
We'd
come
love
see
it.
what's going on.
If you can keep it to 35 minutes.
that'd be great.
This is impressive though. And I did read every page.
it was like a thesis of forest entomology.
As I said earlier to the people that were here, if you give me a quiz on this booklet, I only want one question. What's the main topic of this book? And that's all I want. But boy, it was
When did the
like,
kestrels come back? Or is that a year-long habit?
No, it's not. And people gather there. I know what happens. I generally don't know a lot about birds and whatnot, so I would say sometime in the spring, I would assume, but I'm not sure.
Look back into my many emails on the topic and find when they were last here and see if that's a normal time for them to be here. I know they have site fidelity, so they will continue to come back.
Approximately, when was that?
I have had hundreds of emails on this topic. I can report back to Chuck and he can share that information with you.
I would like to share one last point. The tree is very well defended. As we discovered the last time that we visited the tree, there are some wasps who have taken on the security of the tree, so just very well defended.
They should protect me from.
Without the fence.
We should put some of them over at the old highways building.
okay, we're getting off of subject, but I have, the next meeting is April 16. I need a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Vince moved and second. Come on,
Oh,
Trosper.
second, yeah.
Okay,
I even third it.
you gotta get your name in a minute.
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
I,
I,
Opposed? You're a little slow down there.
select.
This, yeah, is it.
Anyway, enjoy your time.
When are you back, Barney?
yeah,
You coming
May 2nd, May 2nd, I'll be back.
All right.
Life is tough. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for hanging in there with your voice. Appreciate you coming again.
Thank you.